played 268 games after being the number one draft pick in the 2006 draft. Played for the Blues, where he won a John Nichols medal before finishing his career at Adelaide. And now it's a great pleasure to say he's part of the SEN team and AFL Nation as well. And he joins us on the line. Bryce, welcome to you. Thanks for your time, mate.
Good morning, Sammy. Simon.
Great to hear from you. Hope you had a good new year. It was a big story out your way yesterday, and we were speaking earlier about, I guess, the bravery, and I call it bravery, of Fischer McAsey to make a decision that people wouldn't have expected. Some might not even understand, but to depart from what's expected and to do what is right for him, and that was to hang up the boots at the age of 21.
Yeah, you're right, and yeah, certainly would have come as a shock to a couple of people, but it is a little bit sad to see, and it was a little bit disappointing. Obviously, a high draft pick for the Adelaide Crows only a few years ago that they really needed. I think they were drafting for the future down in their back line. Obviously, he was seen as a potential replacement for Daniel Talia after he retired. So. Certainly showed a lot of promise, and a lot of the dealings I had with Fischer were really positive ones. So, for him to make, I'm with you, it's a brave decision, certainly not an easy decision. I think he was quoted saying how difficult the decision was to come to, but it sounds like this is the right decision for him at the moment, and one that he's content with.
Yeah, and we should point out, obviously, it might not be forever. Who knows what's to come? He's a young man. I don't know how well you knew him, Bryce. I know you often get asked to discuss, the pressure on high draft picks, given you were one and you also relocated interstate. There's the support network around players has obviously come a long way in recent times. I mean, can you speak a bit to that? I mean, obviously he had the talent, but perhaps not the desire. I mean, it takes the whole package, but there would be many players in the competition like him that don't live and breathe and eat the game.
Oh, yeah, you're 100% right. And everybody's different. Everyone's personality is different. Everyone handles pressures differently, I suppose. And there's no doubt. I mean, when you're an early pick, there is added pressure, and fans and supporters can be a little bit impatient at times. I think sometimes early picks are expected to come in and make an immediate impact, and sometimes that's not always the case. And we see a lot, especially with the bigger boys, they do take a little bit longer, but you would have thought by now that the talent that he had, and as you said, the upside that he had, he'd certainly be a lock in their defence at the moment. But look, I mean, there might be other reasons that has affected him personally. But the dealings I had with him, I had a lot of optimism when he came into the club. He was very mature beyond his ages, very respectful, and he actually reminded me of a young Jacob Wiedering that stepped into Carlton when he first got drafted. So I certainly had a lot of excitement around what he could do for the footy club, and as we've seen, it just hasn't worked out. And as you said, the AFL caper and the day-to-day grind, it's not for everyone. It can be tough work, and certainly relocating. And we got to remember too, it was in a COVID year. I think that's COVID just hit when he first walked in the door. So the dynamics around the footy club and the trainings and the schedule was certainly a lot different to what it is now. And maybe he felt isolated at times. And now that everything's back on track and back to the way it used to be, AFL footy and the day-to-day grind just might be for him. And sometimes that's okay as well.
Bryce, interesting from your point of view, you've experienced the relocation that you refer to. It. When people are under pressure, I think the first thing you go to is something you relate to, something where your comfort zone is. So if you're home here in Melbourne, it's where you were born and bred. You go home and things are very familiar to you. Your surroundings are all very comfortable. Tell us about some of the pressures you've experienced when you came over from Adelaide to Melbourne, and things aren't going exactly the way you want them to. What did you call on? How did you find strength to continue to cope?
I was pretty lucky, Simon. I think a big reason for me to find the transition easier, I obviously was a high pick and got an opportunity early in a struggling side. So I certainly felt a part of the team pretty much straight away. So I think that helps. And it wasn't probably until later in my career when I found some of the struggles in terms of being in and out of the side and trying to find form and trying to find your place in the side. At the end of my career, I was able to handle that a lot better as I'd had a lot of experience behind me and been in the system for a long period of time. If I'd had dealt with that at the start of my career, I certainly would have struggled a lot more with it. And I struggled with it at the end of it, to be honest, as well. So for guys to go through that, it's extremely hard. And, yeah, obviously relocating is difficult. And as I said before, in a COVID year or two made it extremely harder because you couldn't go out and socialise with other players and meet other people as well. So that certainly made it harder. But I was actually drafted with Mark Austin, who I went to school with and who's one of my best mates as well. So having one of your best mates there with me going through the experience and being a part of the team and playing every week certainly made it a lot easier. But I think Fischer did play about 8 or 10 games in his first year, so he certainly got an opportunity early and would have certainly felt a part of the team straight away. But yeah, obviously found it a lot harder after that, and as I said, it affects everyone in different ways.
It's fascinating, to listen to you talk about that, Bryce. That at the end of your career, you were still craving when that those life choices, if you like, started to happen, and those challenges were being thrust in front of you. That you still, after being such a long period away from home, were actually wanting the comforts of home to help you make those decisions and cope with what was being put in front of you.
Oh, certainly. I mean, I'm more talking about, getting picked for the side and trying to get your way back in and just keeping high standards at training and showing the coaches everything to get back in. In terms of coming back to Adelaide, I was at a point in my life where that was the right decision for our family and, starting to have young children and those sort of things certainly came into my decision-making then. But, yeah, I mean, in terms of the day-to-day working to earn your spot back and trying to play consistent footy, to play in the best 22. I found that certainly hard at the end of my career, and I certainly wouldn't have been able to. It would have been certainly a lot tougher at the start of my career, which I didn't experience because I was playing at a team that was struggling and got probably a lot more opportunity than I would have if I was playing in a strongly side, say.
Speaking of Bryce Gibbs, Bryce, what's your read on your old mob, Carlton? You played more than 200 games for them, still got a couple of former teammates at the club. They overhauled their identity completely, obviously, under Michael Voss last year. Ultimately, it ended with a sour taste, and injuries were a factor last year. And then the devastating news for them is obviously that Sam Walsh is out indefinitely with back surgery. But what level of optimism should Carlton supporters have as Michael Voss enters his second season in charge?
Well, I think it's the times now, isn't it, Sam? I don't think there's many more excuses for Carlton as it sits. So I'm certainly very, very optimistic. I think they've got the right pieces in place now to have a 4 to 5 year really, really successful period. I mean, they've got a great list. They're well coached. I think there's still a lot of improvement to come in a lot of their players as well. The forward line, they got the two twin towers up there in Colonel and Mackay. Their midfield have got a really good inside-outside balance, and a lot of them are really good two-way runners. And their defence, they've got some great attacking options off the back there, and one of the best key defenders in the game. So in terms of the team dynamics, I think it sits really well. I think even a little thing in terms of individual awards now. So you've got a couple of guys that have won Coleman's now. You've got a Brownlow medalist in there. All those sort of individual awards that you don't go out to play for and win, but they've all been ticked off now. So they don't really have to worry about those sort of things anymore. They can just focus on winning games of footy and having a really successful period at this footy club, which they haven't had for a very long time. So I think the times now, they certainly should be aiming for top 4. I think it's certainly doable in what is going to be a pretty even competition, though. I think the top 8 is going to be extremely challenging to get into and very competitive. But it's now or never for Carlton, and I think the time's now, and I think the right pieces are in place to do something special.
And just got 30 seconds here before we let you go, but I know you know him quite well. Jason Horne-Francis made the big switch. I mean, it did blow up the trade period last year to go back home. He's at Port Adelaide, of course. You mentored him, I guess, to some degree at South Adelaide. He's back training again. What sort of space is he in, do you know?
Yeah, really good. He was even in a better space before he had this little hiccup with his hips and this surgery. He was running some personal best times and was really keen to hit pre-season on a strong note. I think he's back running now. He'll ramp up his program over the next couple of months, and he'll be ready to go. He's really keen to prove a few wrong that have knocked his decision to come back home. But Port are primed to bounce back as well this year. They're extremely well placed, and the improvement of Jason and Butters and Josh Sin, I think Dersma's another one can really take this club back to the top 8, I think, this year.
Always good to talk to you, mate. Appreciate your insights. Have a good day.